So now we're live on YouTube. I'm starting the webinar and then do the introduction. So we're live. So good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us for today's live session. The session is brought to you by the team at Commercial Vehicle Forum, or as we are more popularly known, CVF. My name is Rohit Devan, and I'm the event director at CVF. While most of you are already aware, but for some of the new attendees who will be joining us, just to give you a quick introduction, CVF is India's premium C-level commercial vehicle and road transport event. And for today's session, we have collaborated with ZF Vapco to bring a real dipstick, an unveiling session on the state of connected commercial vehicles in India. The session is aptly titled Indian CV and Road Transport Industry Drives Towards a More Connected Future. And in this session, you will obtain a completely holistic view, since we are being joined by senior leaders from across the CV ecosystem, be it an OEM, solution provider, consultant, and also an end user. So before we begin today's session, I wanted to take this time to especially thank our partner, Vapco India Limited, for supporting this session. Vapco India Limited is operating under the ZF Vapco brand and is a part of ZF Group Commercial Vehicle Control Systems Division. Vapco India Limited is India's market leader for advanced braking systems, conventional braking products, and related air-assisted technologies and systems in India. Powered by its vision for accident-free driving and greener transportation solutions, ZF Vapco provides industry-leading solutions in autonomous, connected, and electric domains to the CV industry in India. Headquartered in Chennai, ZF Vapco has 5 manufacturing facilities, an advanced technology development center, a vehicle testing facility, and a nationwide aftermarket distribution and services network. Now, coming to the agenda for today's session, we will be having a panel discussion and will run few polls during that session. Then finally, we close with an audience Q&A at the end. So before we start this session, just wanted to share a small ground rule. I would request all the attendees to direct any question that you may have to the Q&A section at the bottom of your screen. I'm asking you to do that as it helps us refer to your questions in a focused manner. You can also upvote these questions. This helps us in addressing the most burning topics. So please note once again, questions to be entered in the Q&A section at the bottom of the screen. So without further ado, I would like to introduce our expert speaker group for today. First, we have Mr. Arun Bhagwati, who heads network design at Delivery, where he's responsible for driving the network design and trucking operations. He was also leading operations for the transportation business earlier at Delivery. And before Delivery, Arun was with Tata Motors working across sales and marketing in the commercial vehicle division. Next, we are joined by Mr. P. Kaniyappan, who was appointed Managing Director Vapco India Limited in July 2014, and prior to which he led Vapco in the strategic growth market of India as whole-time director since 2009. This was following the company's acquisition of a majority stake in the brakes division of Sundaram Clayton Limited. Also, Mr. Kaniyappan was ranked amongst the top 100 and best CEOs in 2016 by Business Today, which is the largest circulated business fortnightly magazine in India. And joining us all the way from Europe, we have Mr. Philippe Colpron, who's Senior Vice President, Vapco Fleet Solutions, Global Fleet Solutions at ZF Friedrichshafen AG, and Global Business Leader for Fleet Solutions. He's responsible for growing the organization's holistic range of solutions for the commercial vehicle fleet ecosystem towards zero accidents, significant fuel savings, and operational efficiency. Next, we have Mr. Rajendra Singh Sachdeva, who is the COO and Head of R&D at Volvo Eicher Commercial Vehicles. Mr. Sachdeva is responsible for design and development of the complete product range of Eicher branded trucks and buses, as well as for the development of the new range of engines. An automobile engineer by qualification and passion, Mr. Sachdeva has almost 3 decades of experience in automobile design and development. He has been associated with VECV since 1991. Our final panelist for the day is Mr. Carl Alexander Scheidel, who has recently taken over as head of Daimler Buses India. In this function, he is responsible for the development, production, and sales of Bharat Benz buses, Mercedes Benz luxury coaches, and bus chassis for India, as well as exports of bus chassis and fully built buses to markets in Africa, Latin America, the Middle East, and Southeast Asia. Finally, we have Mr. Kaushik Madhavan, who is Vice President Mobility at Frost & Sullivan. He heads the Automotive and Transportation Business Unit for Middle East, North Africa, and South Asia for Frost & Sullivan. He has over 15 years of experience in the automotive industry, especially in strategic consulting and market research. Kaushik, with his deep expertise in the automotive industry, is a much sought after consultant and speaker, and we are incredibly honored to have him on board today as a moderator for the session. Over to you, Kaushik.
Thank you very much, Rahul. It's wonderful and it's a pleasure to be here amongst such an elite audience and also such an elite set of panelists. First of all, thank you very much, Rohit. I think our association with CVF goes back almost 5 years now. And it's always been a wonderful experience interacting with you, interacting with your team at CVF. And of course, due to the ongoing situation, this is one of the few times that we are going to do this virtually. Hopefully, going forward, we will be back to a face-to-face session, happening in Pune, which I really, really look forward to. Thank you very much once again for this opportunity. Now, the topic we've had today is a very, very interesting one. We've seen a lot of movement in this space globally and also in India. It's wonderful to see the likes of VCV, DICV, ZF Vapco here today, and it's very interesting, to hear their thoughts and their vision in terms of how this industry is going to evolve and how connected trucks or connected vehicle telematics is going to evolve in India. Bring a global perspective, first of all, of course, no doubt about that, and then to understand how some of the global best practices can be adopted to the Indian scenario and Indian conditions. So with that, apologies. So with that, let me start, with a few slides along with the context setting that I have in mind for this particular session today. Now, I hope everybody is able to see my my screen. Is that okay? Yeah, excellent. So let me start with this very, very interesting slide. So we did a study early, well, let's say in Q2, between Q2 and Q3 of this calendar year, 2020, just to understand what are the senior management's, let's say, top of mind issues when it comes to connected truck telematics, right? As you can see, no doubt, COVID-19 pandemic threatening global supply chains was right on top. That was number one challenge that a lot of the senior decision makers in the industry face. I think that is there today as well. And I think it is going to continue for at least another quarter or two, because it is going to take a while before the global supply chains are back to their pre-COVID-19 situation. So I think that's the challenge we will continue to face for the next few months. And with the electrification, in the connected vehicles, the truck ecosystem, charging, let's say charging infrastructure, either the lack of availability of it, or even the nascent nature of which we are developing the ecosystem for charging infrastructure, range anxiety, of course, and applicability. So the electrification side of things was also one of the top of mind issues. What was also very, very important, is areas like, data theft, cybersecurity, right? Total cost of ownership. Now, if you keep in mind, these are direct implications on, let's say, the TCO and the asset management and the end-to-end life cycle management of connected vehicles or even connected trucks. And that is something that the Indian market is grappling with. I think we have seen that over the past, let's say, 12 to 24 months, there is a marked shift in terms of how fleets are being operated, right? Traditionally, we have always been used to, let's say, the classification of a large fleet operator, a medium-sized fleet operator, a small fleet operator, and then your typical owner cum operator framework. But that is changing. Now, with TCO, with telematics coming into the picture, the way trucks are looked at in terms of assets, improving productivity, improving efficiency, that is changing. Now, if you look at the global snapshot of connected trucks, right, we expect the global connected trucks, by 2025 to be close to about 60 million units, right? If you see the bar graph on the right side, that shows the stack up for 2025. We are expecting about, let's say, somewhere between 58 to 60 million units, up from about 26 million in 2019. So that's a 2x growth that we are expecting in the next 5 years. Now, if you look at revenues, right, this is very, very important. Of course, one half of the picture is looking at the volumes, right? How many units are going to be sold? How many trucks are going to be equipped with a telematic solution or a connected fleet management system solution? But what is important is the revenue potential, right? In 2019, the global service revenue when it came to connected truck telematics was about $6 to $6.2 billion. That is expected to increase to $17 billion by 2025. In the previous slide, you saw the number of units, right? That was a 2x growth, whereas revenues is going to be a 3x growth, right? I think that is what we are trying to look at to understand how you can increase the share of revenues going forward. How can you make it more recurring? How can you have a long-term solution? Now, if you look at a global snapshot, different regions across the world are showing different growth prospects. In fact, India shows the highest growth prospect between 2019 and 2020, right? In the last year-on-year growth, 12%, as compared to about 11% in NA, about 10.9% in Europe, and 9.6% in China. So very clearly, the growth opportunity or the growth rate in India is going to be definitely among the top 1 or 2 or maybe even 3 over the next 5 years. That's very important. Just to quickly talk about a few key trends, what is going to drive connected truck telematics, right? The sunset of 3G, right? 3G, 2G is already on its way out. We are today talking about 4G already, and 5G is coming into the picture. So what is it going to do to the connected truck telematics, right? So we will see a lot more real-time analysis, right? We will see a lot more efficiency in data transfer, in real-time monitoring of vehicles, whether it is remote monitoring, whether it's going to be edge computing. With the advent of 5G, we will see a lot more efficiency being pumped into the system. So we will be able to do a lot more analysis, and what kind of analysis? I'm going to talk about that in a minute from now. One of them is video intelligence, right? So when we talk about video intelligence, right, today a lot of the global OEMs are already looking at embedding, cameras, video cameras within the vehicle to monitor driver behavior, usage characteristics, and more importantly, as a safety technology, right? In order to reduce fatalities, reduce accidents, it's very important to have a monitoring mechanism, either through videos or some form of video intelligence, where you are able to fast track, certain, let's say, AI-based platforms where you're talking about vehicle health monitoring, freight aggregation, freight monitoring, so on and so forth. So video intelligence is going to be the second key trend that we see that is going to proliferate the connected truck telematics space or connected trucks space, right? The third most important one is prognostics as a service. And I think this is where India will play a big, big role, right? Today, we are already talking about predictive diagnostics, predictive maintenance technologies, right? So with this, what we are going to see is I think this is a classic example we have here today with ZF and WAPCO, right? With them at the forefront of developing technologies as not just tier 1 suppliers, but tier 0.5, right? Now they are working a lot more closely with the OEMs of the world in order to develop solutions. So I think gone are the days where we will see a very, very defined ecosystem for an OEM and for a supplier. It's not going to be the case anymore. We are already moving very fast towards co-creation, right? So when we talk about co-creation, we are talking about technologies and services. So with prognostics as a service, the coming together of OEMs and tier ones is actually going to give that value addition to a fleet operator who is going to look at, like I said before, improved efficiency, reduced downtime for any form of applications, whether it is intercity, heavy duty truck applications, or let's say ICV, LCV, intercity, intracity applications, or even last mile connectivity. We've got delivery here. Last mile connectivity, e-commerce is going to play a big role in the way the Indian commercial vehicle ecosystem is going to evolve. So I think prognostics as a service will be, most importantly, a recurring revenue generator, both for the OEMs and for the suppliers, right? Today we've got the likes of tire management as a service coming in, right? So tire is an asset, right? It is not a conventional purchase a mechanism that most of the tire manufacturers and even the OEMs are looking at. So this is a classic example of how you're going to convert a product into a service. So I think this is going to be one of the key defining factors for the Indian market. So last slide, when we talk about fleet management, right? If you look at, let's say, the short term, medium term, and long term opportunities, I think for the short term, it's very important. In India, that we are already seeing is digital freight brokering, right? Today, we already have a lot of platforms where you're able to aggregate a lot of the services that you're going to offer, either in the form of freight brokering or sharing of assets and resources. Going to be very important, driven by digital platform. Tire management solutions, of course, the likes of Bridgestone, Michelin, MRF, CEAT, JK Tires are very keen on using TMAS or tire management as a service, as a very important tool to help OEMs improve productivity and efficiency, right? And then for the midterm, we are looking at truck sharing or remote diagnostics. Very clearly, remote diagnostics or prognostics, whatever term you may call it, is to understand how vehicles are being used, what are the conditions under which they are operating, how can you reduce downtime, and how can you have customized packages to specific fleet operators. Payload management, of course, and UBI. And for the long term, we are talking about ADAS and autonomous trucking. So ADAS, very clearly, advanced driver assistance systems. In fact, we have a lot of suppliers, including WAPCO, ZF, of course, looking at advanced driver assistance solutions, which are going to help improve productivity and reduce accidents and fatality. Of course, from the Indian perspective, we are still a long time away before we see any form of autonomous trucking. So maybe by 2030, even if we are able to see anywhere between level 1.5 or maybe even level 2, we would be happy, right? So I think going forward for the really long term, autonomous driving, digital retailing, and cyber security are going to become very important aspects. So with that, I'm going to conclude my opening session, and I would now request each one of the panelists today to share their opening thoughts. What they think about the opportunities in this space, and once you have shared all your thoughts, gentlemen, we can then have a panel discussion. So with this, I would request Philippe Colpron to start with his opening thoughts and opening remarks. Philippe, over to you.
Thank you very much, Kaushik. So good morning, good afternoon, everybody. When I'm looking into the world of opportunities ahead, I cannot stop thinking about the initial problem statement, which is road transportation is still incredibly inefficient and ineffective. And when you're looking at most of the digital disruptions that we have seen in the last decades, it's been about bringing that radical efficiency improvement. And I think this is what we're talking about now. We're talking about how can we leverage digital solutions, information enabled by connectivity, to radically bring improvement to that road transportation ecosystem, also bringing, safety and green into the equation. Why is it so inefficient? So many unoptimized loads or unnecessary routes, lots of dependencies on subcontractors, of remote workforce, changing legislations. And these are all elements that we can find solutions by better sharing information, by better providing intelligence to the people that operate those transport companies, And this is where I believe that collaboration through the different stakeholders in ecosystem will become important. I don't believe that anymore we are at the state of thinking about single solutions. I believe we're talking about creating an ecosystem of solutions to bring simplicity for the decision makers that can enable that greener, safer transport in full effectiveness.
Very good points, Philip. I think I completely agree with you. Especially the point you made on collaborative ecosystem. I think that is something that's integral to the success of any form of mobility today, right? You're talking about multimodal mobility and a collaborative ecosystem, right? Very, very good point. So maybe we'll talk about that later as we go forward. Mr. Kandiyappan, I'd like to hear from you your opening thoughts and remarks.
Yeah, thank you. I just would like to reinforce the same points which Philip highlighted more from the Indian context. If globally, if the transportation is not that efficient, India, it is still it's a more serious problem because whether it is infrastructure and every aspect, there are bottlenecks. We need to really make make sure that with all these problems, we improve the efficiency of the transportation. Safety of the transportation is another very important aspect because all of us know that India holds a dubious distinction of the largest number of road fatalities in the world, roughly holding about 1% of the vehicle numbers, but around 8% of the global road fatalities are in India. So again, a major challenge for us. And the third, of course, is now with the BS6 being launched in this country, this provides an opportunity for us to apply technology more than ever to address all these issues. So connected solutions or the fleet management solutions are something that actually is an excellent technology that we can fully leverage to address the efficiency of the transportation, particularly focusing on the fleet profitability, addressing things like even the uptime and how we are really helping the fleets to get the best of what they've invested. Same case, using all these technologies and then how we can reduce the road fatalities. Finally, the BS6 actually, as I said, provides an excellent platform to bring all these advanced technologies, bring the connected vehicle program to connect with all the advanced technologies and leverage this as an excellent opportunity to address much more than what, the safety and efficiency alone. There are much more areas we can actually address as we move forward in the panel discussions. We can discuss those topics as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kandiyappan. I completely agree with you, especially on the road fatality side. Unfortunately, India, still is right at the top in terms of the number of deaths, close to 150,000, per year. That's a massive number. Something we really need to do something about. Hopefully, with the improvement in electronics content, better safety technologies, we will be able to address that in a big way. Definitely, very, very valid point. So I'll come to you, Mr. Sachdeva. From an OEM's perspective, I know VECV, in India has done a lot of things in terms of bringing new models, bringing new technologies for fleet operators. So as an OEM, what are your thoughts on this space?
Well, I think corroborating what Mr. Kandiyappan said and what Philip said, today in India, 12% of the GDP goes toward the logistic cost, whereas in all the advanced country, it is 6 to 7%. So that much is the amount of inefficiency there in our transportation system today. In our case, if we have to reduce that 12% logistic cost to 6 to 7% of the GDP, it is, I think, two areas were very, very important. Number one was, of course, that which GST has done, that state borders have been removed, vehicles are running faster. And second, we see that COVID has brought in new realization that event of the e-commerce forefront. Now it is on the forefront where the kilometer running is very important. Vehicles are being monitored and there's a premium on completing the trip in the stipulated time. That's the second thing. And looking at these two things, if you have to really improve the efficiency, I think only way the vehicle connectivity and at VCV, as you rightly said, that today 100% of our product from BS or BS6 product from 1st April are connected vehicles. And if I look at both driver management, uptime management, fuel management, all the three areas, if you have to manage that thing, definitely connectivity is the way of life. And here, your data also showed that 12% is the growth in the vehicle connectivity over 1 year. I feel that in 12%, I feel fortunate that VCV must be the one of the biggest chunk which have contributed, because 100% of our vehicle with the collaboration with WEPCO and ZF, we have been able to do that thing. But definitely we can go in detail of these things, but I'm saying that this is the way of life. If we have to really improve the country's GDP and efficiency across the transportation sector, this is the way of life.
Absolutely, thank you very much, Mr. Steve. And I completely agree with you. I have been closely following the development of especially your Eicher Pro range of vehicles. They're really cutting edge. They are at the forefront of innovation technology, and I'm very glad to see that 100% of your new vehicles today are connected. So I think that is the benchmark that an OEM should set in the Indian context. So thank you very much for that. So Carl, I'll come to you. I think Bharat Benz in India, say DICV in India, has been one of the pioneers again, and you were probably the first OEM in India to be coming out with a BS6 ready vehicle, right? I think you led that wave of a BS6 compliance in India. So taking that to the next level, right? How do you see, leveraging your expertise, global expertise in bringing connectivity and connected vehicle solutions to the Indian market? What are your thoughts? Some global perspective and then some opportunities for India.
Thanks, Kaushik. Well, let me say connectivity telematics is nothing new to the world. If you look at the current business globally, there are more than $100 billion made with connectivity and telematics globally. So I would say what we are talking about here is bringing this to the next level. And you, with the introduction slides, also Philippe, Mr. Sachdeva and Mr. Kanyapan, has already talked about the horizons that we have to look into, what has to be done in this particular topic. We have to look really into how to make use of the technology that is existing and how to bring this to the next level in order to have new businesses created, new targets met, like the road safety, as well as also bringing more efficiency in the complete end-to-end logistics chain. From my perspective, the cybersecurity, and this is an aspect that you only touched, is a topic that is mandatory to ensure the safety of as well the data, as well as the driver and the passengers, if I look at the buses. So therefore, this is an aspect that we should touch maybe later on. In terms of services and the focus, the next level of connectivity, I see, especially for India, the necessity that we identify what are the areas that are of most interest. Mr. Sachdeva already touched the logistics chain. This is definitely an area. I would also touch upon the transportation industry for passengers. Also, we have 1.6 billion people using buses. Also, these passengers is a target area. And last but not least, what I am believing in, and that I would like to put as the fourth trend into your slides, is I see an open architecture as one of the important topics. Cannot be that we as Bharat Benz have our ProServe for the after sales, a truck connect for the trucks, a bus connect for the buses, that Eicher has their connectivity solution for Eicher solely. I think we need a platform where also other guys can contribute with apps into these platforms and offer in connection with our offerings benefit to the customers. That's my global and Indian view. Thanks.
Absolutely spot on, Carl. In fact, you're absolutely right when you said the need for cybersecurity and the role of startups that is going to drive the cybersecurity ecosystem development today. In fact, in India, I just wanted to touch upon this. We did a study earlier this year, and we profiled about 180 startups in India, and about 30 or 40 of them are in cybersecurity in India. So I think there's a lot of talent out there. And you're absolutely right. And we need to see how we can leverage that and build, cybersecurity. And another point which you mentioned spot on is open architecture. I think we all talk about Volkswagen's Rio as a global benchmark for open architecture, and how they have created this end-to-end ecosystem of fleet management solutions. And in fact, we are seeing, if something can be replicated for the Indian market. Of course, we have our own challenges, but no reason why India cannot have an open architecture. So very, very good point there. Thank you very much. So now I'm going to come to you, Arun. I think you come with a unique perspective, right? As somebody who consumes, a lot of the technologies, that the OEMs and suppliers have to offer, and you have your own business model, right? When you talk about e-commerce, last mile delivery, connectivity, and so on. So as a user of all these platforms, technologies, and as a provider of services, how do you see this ecosystem evolving in India? Your thoughts?
Thank you. So first of all, I think at delivery, we don't see connected vehicles as a choice. We actually see it as an absolute necessity, at least in the business model that we operate in, to the extent that even in small commercial vehicles, where normally telematic solutions are not offered, we go in and install our own systems, because real-time knowledge of where a vehicle is and when it's expected to hit one of our facilities is absolutely crucial in our business. Ultimately, everything that we do is oriented towards reducing the end cost of shipping for the clients whose material that we move. So a lot of the points that you had, which were quite interesting, right? I mean, one is prognostics. Can it help us drive every truck an additional 1,000 kilometers in a month? That would help in a very big way in terms of reducing the cost. The time that we lose in unplanned maintenance for all kinds of vehicles. Some things have already happened, but I mean, the government has already launched things like FASTag, which have made shipping, trucking more efficient, but bypassing weigh bridges, for instance. It could be a small saving, but again, it will go a big way in reducing stops on the highway. And lastly, what we at least look for from the OEMs in terms of support, I think key to reducing the cost of trucking is to make our driving crews drive more efficiently. There is a wealth of information which is being generated right now, thanks to all these sensors, telematic devices which are available on the trucks. But interpreting that, analyzing that, converting that into tangible inputs, which can actually help us reinforce to drivers what they need to change, that will be a big item in my mind, at least.
Right. I think, the point which you made is very, very relevant, Arun, is how can you reduce the end cost to the customer? Because at the end of the day, it's competitiveness that is going to keep you alive, right? Especially in a space in India where we see, a lot of new solutions coming in, but building that brand on reliability, efficiency and trustworthiness is very, very important for the Indian market. So very, very well said. So I think, thank you very much, gentlemen, for sharing your opening thoughts. So the first point I want to discuss, is with you, Philippe, and maybe Arun, you as well. Now, when we spoke about, you also spoke about connectivity, right? And one of the areas that I also mentioned about is the emergence of 5G, for example. The challenge which a lot of fleet operators face in India when it comes to real-time monitoring is connectivity issues, right? So there is always patchy connectivity. There are definitely certain areas in India where there is even very limited 2G connectivity as well. So that provides a very unique challenge for fleet operators in terms of, Arun, that you rightly mentioned, that you need to know at any given point in time where your truck is, right? Because you need to plan your next course of action. So in a situation or in a country like India where connectivity is playing an important role, what role do you think telecom operators are going to play going forward? Because from my discussions with the likes of Airtel or even Jio for that matter, they are very keen on understanding how the connected truck or the connected vehicle telematics space is improving, because they want to start offering customized solutions for fleet operators, could be large, medium, small, from the telecom side of things, right? Could be infrastructure, could be new packages, so on and so forth. So how do you see the role of a telecom player, right, in the entire connected vehicle ecosystem? So Philip, your thoughts first, and maybe Arun, you can add your thoughts too.
It's a very interesting question. Thank you very much. Indeed, when we're talking about ecosystem partnership, I believe this is a very good one, because definitively the network operators play a crucial role, such as, let's say, the cloud architecture providers, so as the driving technology players. So if you're thinking now about the link between the telecom providers and the fleet management solutions, you can imagine the more we will add value through connectivity, the more we will automate processes, the more we will, let's say, robotize potential operations such as dispatching, the more dependency we're going to have on the telecom reliability. And indeed, we know today in India, for example, there are white spots that we must make sure to improve in order to ensure that the fleet operators are fully satisfied with the solutions. But I believe it's also an opportunity for stronger collaboration. It's an opportunity for stronger partnership, because when you're thinking about it, commercial vehicles, whether it's for people transport, whether it's for commercial transport, are the most active movements covering the grids of India. So somehow, if we establish stronger information exchange between fleet management providers and those telecom providers about where is it that we have high reliability and where is it that we have white spots or more black spots in this perspective, I believe that there can be stronger benefits afterwards for the logistic providers, if indeed there's a responsiveness from the telecom providers to respond, let's say, to those requirements that are being exchanged with precise facts and data, actually.
Right, good points, Philip. Arun, your thoughts?
I mean, like you mentioned, it's certainly a bugbear, but the good part is, I think, over time, it's certainly improving the quality of location information which comes in. And there is a lot of ground to cover from where we are right now. But there are two applications here. The first application is where we want to know exactly at this point in time where our vehicle is, which is where these kind of connectivity issues create problems. The second is where we need a location of a truck more from a planning perspective. So let's say we have a facility and we have a 50-kilometer geofence around it. We want to know when it crosses that geofence so that we can make space for it in our facility and plan for unloading. That information, even if it comes in with a 5 or 10 minute lag, is still fine. But yes, this is an issue which we face, and hopefully the telecom operators, once we move to 4G and 5G, these kind of issues should go down. Hoping for that.
Right. So continuing on this, on that thought, I want to come to Mr. Sachdeva and Carl, to get an OEM perspective. So one of the points which Arun also made is seamless connectivity, right? For him as a fleet operator or the user, it is more important for him to know where a particular truck is, and when it is likely to reach its next destination or a warehouse or any common point, right? So one of the key areas that we've seen from, especially in the past 12 to 14 months, from the OEM's perspective is the issue of renewability, right? So today, all of the OEMs today in India are offering OE connected vehicle solutions or telematics solutions with certain features. Could be a combination of, let's say, geofencing, track and trace, driver behavior monitoring, or fuel level monitoring, or theft monitoring in all these areas. So now this is also generating a large amount of data, right? Today OEMs are still struggling to make sense out of these data, and which is where I mentioned earlier as well, that startups come into the picture. So from an OEM's perspective, how do you see the positioning of these telematics solutions or fleet management solutions, and how do you see the communication to the fleet operators in terms of how they can add value, how can they improve productivity, how can they improve efficiency? Where do you see the challenges in terms of messaging and leading to renewability of these subscription-based services? So OEM's perspective, Mr. Sachdeva, if you would like to go first.
Yeah. The first issue I see that awareness and appreciation of these services by the fleet owner, because there's a mix of fleet owners. One are the FTUs, which are first-time users are there, and second, we have got a well-managed fleet owners are there. proliferation with fleet owners, bigger fleet owner is still, it is easier. But proliferation with the FTU is a big challenge. And there also people education level and their understanding of the system also play a larger part is there. Now, once this data is available to us and also data is available to the customers also, we had done one survey to understand that thing. And we found that about a year back, only 25 to 30% of the fleet owners were actually using this data. That is a very, very important eye opener for us. Then we realized that thing, if this data, if we giving the telematics and then we are giving the subscription also, even we paid the subscription also for the fleet owner, that means we are giving this services free for next 3 years. Even then he was not opening the app and monitoring this data. 26% people were using this data. Then we said that we have to now close the loop. Whatever data is coming through the telematics, we have to process the data, take it to the fleet owners and show him the benefit. Then only we can build the appreciation in India, and particularly apart from Europe has got a different challenges might be there, but in India education level and appreciation is also one challenge is there apart from the connectivity. And once we segregated data, we use the analytics and segregate it and showed that some vehicle, go to fleet owner and tell that 30% of your vehicle has been idling during last 1 week because of XYZ reason. 20% of the drivers have been using the overspeeding. 30% of the drivers actually have been doing the overbraking and rash driving they are doing. Once we showed data and then also showed the improvement to them. That was the next step. Next week, we showed him the improvement after counseling the driver and showed him your fuel efficiency has gone up, your tire wear has come down drastically, and your vehicle is running more safe and your turnaround time also has improved. Once we demonstrated that appreciation came much higher as compared to earlier. And drivers and fleet owners, which were not earlier keen to even renew the subscription, they also came forward and they started opting for these services. Even at the paid services also, they started looking at that. So India has an uphill task, both at the regulatory front, both at the connectivity front, and third, the awareness front. They are the three biggest challenges today I face that thing. And today, then we created one group only dedicated to ensuring that there's a closed looping with the fleet owners, identify fleets and identify their drivers, identify their routes on which they are running, and how do we make sure that we manage the driver. Our first and easier step is managing the driver. Then I will come to second step, the uptime management, how we have done that thing. And that's again a very, very interesting area. Prognostic, what you mentioned, that plays a very large role in that thing. But on the driver management, once we have closed the loop, we have made them appreciate the benefits of that connected services. And it's an uphill task. I think doing with almost say 70-80% of your fleet owner customers and population, it is not a small issue. We created a special group for that thing, and a lot of support we come from Webco and other areas also, which is helping us to build this awareness with the people. And connectivity, many times on the connectivity front, we fail that thing. And some patches are there, almost 50 kilometers where there's no connectivity, nothing is there. So there, now 2G, 3G, 4G, those are also playing the part. And regulatory issues are also coming, particularly on the AIS 140 and other area, which are also playing some part. As we go into the discussion, I think we can process those things also. And I'm very keen to listen to the other panelists also, to their views also on this aspect. But this is how we are trying to crack the situation when we have got 100% connected truck. And unless we take this 26% to at least 75%, benefit of this is not to be realized in the market. That's what we are working on.
Carl, coming to you, I think Mr. Sachdeva made a very, very valid point. You know, in India, like he absolutely rightly said, demonstration of capabilities, right? Demonstration of a real-time benefits, whether it is fuel savings, whether it is improvement in productivity, time, or any monetary savings, that needs to be shown. And that has got a lot to do with awareness, right? So you come, coming from a European perspective, I'm sure you faced these challenges maybe 5 or 6 years ago when you were at the forefront of telematics. So tell us, how was this addressed in Europe? How was awareness improved among customers, fleet operators, that led to an increase in penetration rates?
Well, in Europe, we had for the commercial vehicles started with all these fleet management software and services with software called Fleetboard. It was a separate entity built, and we offered that to Mercedes-Benz customers, and especially in trucks. And at that time, roughly 10 years back, we figured out, well, same that Mr. Sachdeva said for India, that the usage of this fleet management system effectively was only in a few customers. That was at that time roughly 30%. So with the 26%, here in India, 30% in Europe, was very similar. So what then Fleetboard made was they started looking into what benefit they can offer, and then they reacted exactly in the same manner that also Mr. Sachdeva said. They created dashboards where the fleet owner could easily make use of all the data in terms of harsh braking, in terms of where is the fuel consumption better or worse, what is with the predictive maintenance of tire wear, etc. And then they recognized that there was an increase of the usage of these features up to 40–45%. But then there was another barrier. And what now recently was started, and Daimler as a whole, Daimler Truck, has now created a complete entity for that, for mobility solutions, where we now go to the next level globally. And this is something which I also plan to introduce in India in the upcoming years, is that we talk about services that we offer. So we, as Daimler, has established now a big data center where we analyze all data and then customize to the customer. He can book a service saying, I would like to optimize my fleet management. I would like to analyze the routes that my guys are taking, and how can I optimize that? And this is a service he can book from Mobility Solutions, and then we analyze with the big data and give him the recommendation. And this is a service he can book as a one-timer, as a recurrent topic, etc. And this is my vision also for India, that we not only give these customized solutions in terms of this is the fleet management system to a customer, but also enabling maybe startups or other companies or ourselves to come into services for the customer, mobility solutions that the customer can book, where the big data use can be made available.
Perfect. I think booking mobility solutions is going to be the key differentiator, because you are actually seeing value addition to the customer as well, to the fleet operator as well. So before I come to Mr. Kaniyappan, Rohit, can we run the first poll? So to all the audience members, we have also created a few questions for you just to keep interactive going. And we would like to hear from you in terms of what you think are the opportunities here. So here is the first question that is on your screen now. When will we see mass adoption of connectivity across the Indian CV and road transport sector, right? When do you see that's going to happen? Within a year, in the next 1 to 3 years, 3 to 5 years, after 5 years, or if you feel it's never going to happen? Although I would not like to see any answers for that option, but we would love to hear from you. So please take a few seconds to tell us your thoughts and what you think is your perception on when we will see mass adoption of connectivity across the Indian commercial vehicle space. So we'll give you a few seconds to answer that question.
Kaushik, in the meantime, you can move on to Mr. Kaniyappan.
Yes, perfect. So I'll come back to you after I discuss with Mr. Kaniyappan, Rohit, and you can share the answers. So Mr. Kaniyappan, I come to you now. So a very interesting point you made, when you shared your opening remarks, is fleet profitability, right? I'll be honest with you. That is sometimes a factor that is often overlooked by the Indian commercial vehicle ecosystem, right? Although for a fleet operator's perspective, profitability is number one, sometimes from the technology supplier's perspective, or let us say an OEM or supplier, the profitability is important, no doubt, but the focus is so much on developing a solution or a technology, right? But the profitability always takes a backseat. That's number one. I think, Carl also mentioned something very, very important, is developing a dashboard right? Where the user or let's say a control room can actually see a lot of these parameters real time. Now, I know WAPCO, has been a pioneer in India when it comes to chassis technologies, braking technologies, safety technologies, and so on and so forth. So, from the Indian context going forward, I would like you to touch upon this, which is fleet profitability and how a supplier can play a role, in terms of co-creating a solution in collaboration with an OEM for a fleet operator, right? Because like I mentioned before, the role of a supplier is changing, right? It is not just a tier 1 or a tier 0.5 supplier anymore. So you are also involved equally in developing safety technologies, driver assistance systems, fuel efficiency technologies, along with the OEM for a fleet operator. So how do you see this coming together? And from a WAPCO's perspective or from your perspective, how do you think this can be developed into a dashboard? Your thoughts, sir?
Thank you. The WAPCO philosophy is essentially to help the customers to differentiate and succeed in front of their customer. That's a fundamental logic with which we do business here. So here the end customer is the fleet or the driver, those people who own that, who has invested on a truck. So jointly with the OEMs, in this case, VECV and Seidel and Mr. Seidel and DACV bus. But that's the philosophy with any customer. So we are trying to see how we can mobilize the vehicle intelligence and then offer the, either the uptime of the vehicle or the fuel efficiency of the vehicle or the safety of the vehicle. Anything that we can do to make sure that it serves the purpose of the end customer. So towards that, if you look at it, the connected vehicle solutions, whatever we are offering in India, is actually providing that aspect. If you take fleet profitability today, I think 50% of the cost of the fleet is largely for the fuel. So the program that, of course, again, we work with the customers jointly. You earlier said it's not it's 0.5. Virtually we are embedded in the customers' plans, particularly in the area of digital, because you can't develop solutions offline and then go and give it to them. This is a joint development. Most of these developments, whether it is with Daimler Bus or with Volvo Eicher, it's a joint development. So we have actually developed the solutions that actually will improve the fuel. 50% cost is for all the fleets. But if you look at how this the connected solutions improve the fuel efficiency, starting from even the fuel theft or eliminating that or monitoring that, and then as a next level today, as we said, the mobilizing the intelligence. Today you are able to really making sure through these technologies the vehicles are running to the optimum level, and the driver is running it in the most right way, and even in the right route you are taking, right speed you are taking, anything you can do to make sure the fuel efficiency is achieved. And similarly, the concept, the tire pressure monitoring itself gives you so many ways by which we can actually mobilize the intelligence and improve the fuel saving. So like that, every aspect, like Mr. Sachdeva talked about uptime, uptime center. This is one of the best initiative in the industry, I feel, because you have a best opportunity. Well, it's a challenge to, make sure people use this. But if you are able to do it, then it becomes the greatest, a positive reinforcement for the customer. Then you get into a loyalty. He becomes your loyal customer, because you are in a position to today track the vehicle, predict the potential future failures, the next failure when it is going to occur. You can actually remotely advise him to go to the next service center or a dealer point. Meanwhile, you can also inform your people in the aftermarket side to go and get ready with the right mechanic, the right spares, and he will get the positive, best experience he can get, customer experience he can get. You can provide this using this technology today. So much of opportunity, I believe, is available if you are able to really succeed. Well, it's a challenge. We will, I'm sure, together with all the customers, we will be able to find the solutions to give that experience to the end customer. That's what I see. It's a great opportunity that is available in front of us. I talked about only one aspect, but there are in many areas we can keep talking.
No, I like the point you made, Mr. Kandiappan, which is showing value to your customer's customer, right?
Yeah.
So I think that is going to be the crux of a successful business model in any case. Philip, I'm coming to you now. I wanted you to touch upon one of the points Carl made, during his opening remark is developing an open architecture, right? Something that is so unique that we have seen over the past years, in the commercial vehicle fleet management solutions and fleet management systems. Obviously, the Western world has already taken the lead, right? Today, we have a couple of examples. We have Daimlers, of course, we've got Volkswagens, of course, open architecture where multiple stakeholders can come on board and start offering their solutions, right? So that flexibility is what is going to drive value addition for a customer. So from an Indian perspective, where do you see the opportunity for developing an open architecture? Like I said, India has a lot of talent and capabilities in the data analytics space, software development space, platform development space, but we are still lagging behind when it comes to regulatory compliance, whether it is, AIS 140, we've just got there, of course, but general regulatory compliance, or, whether it is emissions, whether it is safety, so on and so forth. So while we have a great advantage with software and electronics and so on, we are not so much in line with the global trends when it comes to regulatory compliance. So how do you see an opportunity for open architecture from the Indian context?
Well, maybe I will share what we currently do, and then we can expand somehow what it means in terms of other, because we have just inaugurated this Monday our Digital Solution Technology Center in Bangalore to do exactly what you just described. So we did realize that through our European application, through our Indian application, we were redeveloping even internally sometimes many of the same applications. And we were forced somehow also in support of the solution for our OE customers, the same as for our other geographies solutions, many of the same developments. So we wanted to create that global architecture to make sure that we could have reusability and that we could leverage at best third-party developers to add their own added value. What we see is that most companies in the ecosystem have their digital journey. We need to respect that everybody have their own digital journey. We need to enable that everybody is capable of leveraging each other's strengths and weaknesses. So I do see India as in the forefront of talent base to develop that platform. But I also see India as a market in the forefront to potentially leapfrog some steps with less legacy than other geographies to maybe go faster to that organized shared architecture ecosystem. If we really want to deliver to the market the opportunity that this technology provides, we need to have very strong technological on-vehicle collaboration with all of the security and cybersecurity constraints that I believe Gal was referring about before. We need to make sure that that security is on the cloud also with somehow architectural facilities to have fast, reliable, secured APIs. And then we need to be very purposeful for what the different users need. And sometimes, different fleet operators may have different needs. We need to enable those differences while somehow being very cost efficient, because we want to make sure that it's affordable and that there's strong return on investment for people using it.
Perfect. Very good points. Rohit, before we move on to the next question, Rohit, can we have the answers to the previous poll questions that we just ran? Excellent. So we have a neck-to-neck race between 1 to 3 years and 3 to 5 years. So very clearly there is some form of optimism, and I'm very happy to see that nobody chose the last option. Very, very happy to see that, and good to see that there are very few options or people who opted for after 5 years. Is definitely a good sign. So very clearly there is some optimism among the audience members as well, that we will see connectivity being adopted maybe in the next 3 to 5 years. So very, very good. Thank you for that. Rohit, again, can we run the next question as well, please? Before we move on to the next speaker, it'll be good to see what people think about this particular question. In your opinion, what are some of the most important parameters considered by fleet owners and operators while choosing a connected vehicle solution, right? What could be your top 2 or 3 priorities? You can choose multiple options here: fuel efficiency, location tracking, asset and cargo safety, maximizing vehicle uptime, and driver safety. So you can choose as many options as you want, and we'll leave this on, for a couple of seconds. And now I'll move to the OEM representatives, Mr. Sachdeva and Dhakar, right? One of the areas that we have seen, even in India and globally, of course, is electrification, right? So we are already looking at a lot of OEMs, both here in India and also globally, offering, let's say, electric truck solutions, right? It could be applicable for really small LCVs for last mile connectivity, could be for intermediate connected commercial vehicles for, let's say, intercity or urban suburban applications. Very clearly, electrification is going to come into the commercial vehicle segment, and it's going to be here to stay, right? So the question, in many fleet operators' minds or fleet operators' mind, even when it comes to large, medium, and even small fleet operators, is, with the advent of electrification, what will happen to connectivity? Will it become easier? That means, with an electric truck, is it easier to implement a connected vehicle solution, or is it going to become more challenging because we are looking at completely a new set of challenges, which is battery life, battery charge and discharge time, charging infrastructure availability, motor performance, and so on. So how do you see electrification impacting the connected vehicle ecosystem? Mr. Sachdeva, first, if you can share your thoughts.
Thank you, Madhavan. As we see that, and global trend, if you see that buses are the immediate source in the commercial vehicle and trucks and buses. If you see that buses is the immediate product segment which will be going for the electrification. And when we talk with the Volvo Group and many of the European counterparts, I think all the public service bus tender which are coming today, they're coming on the EV platform.
Right.
So that means that a lot of electromobility we will see in India also, as well as globally also. And China, it was highest at one point of time, but today, because of lack of subsidy, this has slightly come down in China. But definitely proliferation will be more there in India as well as the other global platforms. Now here, looking at the connectivity, I feel that connectivity challenge will remain almost same what we have in the ICE also, internal combustion engine, as well as electric for the EV. That is challenge is same, or maybe slightly lesser. From that angle, if I see that, I definitely don't see that connectivity in EV will be more challenging. Here, of course, the parameter will change: state of charge, how many kilometer range, where is the next EV charging station, and how far we have to travel, and those type of issue will become much more important, and temperature, of course, of the batteries, like parameter will change. But I would say the connectivity solution, connectivity challenges, and ease of connectivity, everything will remain same. A benefit also it is giving will be the similar benefit it will be offering to that. And of course that detouring or driver management, uptime management, all the aspect can be effectively used in the EV side also. And we are very, very closely looking at that. And I'm very happy to share the first EV bus we have generated on the MIDI platform. It's a 9.5 meter length platform. We have done that thing. It is also fully connected. And we are true to our promise that 100% of our truck from 5 ton to 55 ton range, as well as buses, will remain connected. And I see as we get in touch with the Volvo Group, because they are our joint venture partner, I think that connectivity front, we are equally keen on the EV connectivity as we were in the ICE connectivity. Thank you.
Perfect. Very, very good answer. So Rohit, can we have the answer to the second poll question that we shared with the audience? Wow, this is very interesting. So maximizing vehicle uptime is a clear winner there, closely followed by fuel efficiency. I think it's a very close contest between fuel efficiency and maximizing vehicle uptime. Clearly, the top two factors that are going to determine the improvement in efficiency, for a fleet operator, whether it is large, small, or medium. Very, very good. Thank you very much. So, Carl, coming back to you, your thoughts on how electrification is going to either help or speed or accelerate the adoption of fleet management solutions, from your perspective.
Well, I agree totally with what Mr. Sachdeva said. I see not a big complexity coming with e-vehicles compared to diesel vehicles or fuel vehicles. Reason is very simple. Connectivity is more than only the data from the engine.
Right.
And therefore, we will have different parameters, but this will be the same effort. What I see is that the customers who are driving the electric vehicles are more used to these gadgets where you have to look at the battery filling, the temperature, etc. So the affection to the technique of connectivity might be higher with the users of electric vehicles. So therefore, the usage might be higher by a few percentages, but the effort to realize that and the data will be the same.
Very good answer. I think, okay, so I think listening to both you and Mr. Sachdeva, it is, like you rightly mentioned, engine or powertrain is only one small element of the entire connected vehicle solution, right? So even when we move towards electrification, it is not likely to have a big impact. So excellent. So coming to you, okay, before I come to you, Arun, Rohit, can we run the next question as well in the form of a poll so that, we give the audience something to chew on before we talk about hearing Arun's perspective. So the question is, should the government make it mandatory to have a connectivity solution in every CV, right? Agree, disagree, not sure. This is going to be an interesting one, because as Mr. Sachdeva mentioned, today an OEM like VECV have already made it 100% in all their new vehicles. So they are already a step in the right direction. They are way ahead of the curve. So even before there is a mandate, they have taken it upon themselves to ensure that every vehicle is equipped with a connectivity solution. So what does the audience think? So we will come back in a few minutes in the form of answers. So I'll come to you, Arun, now. One of the key areas that we have seen, is how the central government and also the regional state governments in India are investing significantly, or at least in the form of making plans, to develop smart cities. Just 2 days ago, I was also participating in a conference where we had representatives of what 5 or 6 smart cities, right? So the CEO of Smart City Indore, Bhopal, Nagpur, so on and so forth. So we see a lot more of these tier 2, tier 3 smart cities coming into the picture. Now, whenever we talk about smart cities, we always are talking about developing the infrastructure for digitization, IoT, last mile connectivity, and so on and so forth. So from your perspective, let's say from delivery's perspective, right, as an end user of technology offered by the OEMs, of course, and you also have your set of customers, could be end users, could be private customers, and so on. So how do you see the ecosystem of smart cities that is developing in India, and how do you see that influencing, a business model like delivery going forward? Is there something that you would want to see, or let's say you would want to give as a recommendation to a smart city planning official or a smart city development authority, from a delivery perspective? What are your thoughts there?
So specific to delivery, when we look at smart cities and assuming that the scope and of the ambit of the plan is to plan for, let's say, the next 20 years or 25 years, especially in the kind of smaller cities that you're referring to, there is massive growth happening in all directions. Cities are expanding. The traditional logistics areas tend to be in the heart of these cities, which are now almost completely inaccessible. So the first and most important thing from a commercial vehicle point of view is to clearly identify areas where logistics can function without being hampered. There are no restrictions in terms of entry. Large vehicles can maneuver easily. Sufficient infrastructure in terms of the ecosystem is present there. Be it something as simple as, fuel pumps, service areas, truck stops, rest areas, and so on. That's number one. The second challenge that we see is postal codes were possibly assigned 50 or 60 years back. They do keep getting revised every year. But especially in India, the quality of addresses is extremely poor. The way people in a lot of the smaller towns express where they stay is on the basis of landmarks, right? So we sincerely hope that also changes. The third, which is something which is again interesting, and we are seeing, is a lot of these smart cities are now planning to offer Wi-Fi. That will be a huge boon for people like us, where starting from the boy who goes on a bike to deliver a shipment to our vehicles, everybody is using a handheld device. And right now, like you mentioned earlier, there are different networks. The quality of the networks might be different. So a common Wi-Fi which is available will go a long way in making things easy for us.
Excellent. I think that's a very good point you make, Arun. Making Wi-Fi more accessible to the general public and making it, let's say, omnipresent, right? Rather than just specific pockets of areas. I think that is going to help delivery, significantly. So, Rohit, can we have the answer to the, or let's say, the poll results for the last question? Wow, that's fantastic. 71% of the respondents feel that it should be made mandatory. So, Mr. Sachdeva, you should be very happy. I think you've already taken the first step there. I think you are way ahead of the curve. So, hopefully, that is going to become mandatory going forward. So, very, very good. So, I think in the interest of time, let's open up the question and answer session with the audience. So, Rohit, if you would like to take the first question and pose it to one of the panel members.
Sure. So first of all, I would like to thank the audience, in terms of their inquisitiveness. We've received almost 40 questions, so thank you so much. Now, to move on to the first question. So one recurring theme that we've been seeing is, cyber threat, cyber security. So I've received a very interesting question that, I'm going to just bring it to the panelists. Just give me a second. Okay, so regarding cyber threats to the vehicle, we always think connectivity is the biggest factor. But for the CV, threats by tampering the external hardware interfaces and tampering electronics will also be a big concern, as the same vehicle can be shared amongst multiple hands. This makes even non-connected vehicle vulnerable. So how do you see this threat from this? This is from Vishal Bajpayee. Would any one of you like to take that?
I can take from the Indian context and also some learning what we have got from our European partners.
Sure.
Here I see that if you look at OTA getting implemented before the BS6 technology, and there since it's a application-led system, and BS6 particularly temperature management in the exhaust and after treatment is extremely important area which can influence the uptime. And once we look at the thermal management, it is largely dependent upon the application also. Various applications behave differently with respect to temperature management. And from that, you need to upgrade the software for different application. And there the OTA is one over-the-air software flashing to the vehicle, which are running in the field. That's what functionality we have available for our iShare Live system. And there, we are keeping that open source, that when EMS can be flashed. But if somebody can hack cybersecurity point of view or the data security point of view, it can be tampered with that thing. And that poses a very great risk in terms of the vehicle functionality. And we have also come across some of the application in the global arena where the vehicle have gone out of control because somebody tampered with the EMS because it was on the open source. So those type of security threat we are also visualizing in India and trying to take the countermeasure of that thing. But I think this is a very factual and very, very realistic threat which we are today analyzing from the vehicle functionality perspective.
Sure.
I could also add that also jumping on the question before on should it be mandatory, I think definitively some security guardrails should also be mandatory, because if you're talking about over-the-air updates or if you're talking about data exchange, definitively it would be important that we put the bar high enough to make sure that we know how to filter what is well done with the proper encryption, with the proper respect of the ISO 21434 standard versus what is not. Another dimension that is not discussed is about the consequence, let's say, on the planning operations of the fleet operators or the data privacy. I believe that needs to be fully built in the architecture of the cloud solutions which are being put into the market.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you, Philip. Thank you, Mr. Sachdeva.
Kaushik, would you like to share your thought on that as well? If you could, because you...
No, in fact, that's a very good question which Vishal had asked. In fact, I have had the opportunity to discuss with Vishal as well on how cybersecurity and mitigating these threats is going to play an important role. We have seen quite a few examples on the passenger vehicle side of things, right? But there is still some amount of work to be done in creating, the platform which Philip rightly mentioned for commercial vehicle applications. So hopefully, I think with the standardization coming in, we will see more of such application in the Indian commercial vehicle segment as well. But very relevant question by
Sure.
Vishal.
Sure.
So the next question, is from my very good friend in the industry, Ramashankar Pandey, who is also the MD of Hella India Lighting, and he is such a vocal proponent of safety in India. So I want to pose this question to Mr. Kandiappan and Carl as well. Mr. Kandiappan, because he already spoke about road fatality. So the question, from Ramashankar is that, can the auto industry work together on an Intel Inside kind of a campaign, right, to promote and prioritize safety, including connected vehicle technologies, advanced driver assistance technologies, or even simple passive safety technologies? Because today, Mr. Kandiappan, you mentioned as well, India has a dubious distinction of the highest number of road fatalities. So how can we, look at data capturing, and related analytics, and have solutions that can save millions of Indians, in the long term? Or do you think it is going to become hard to imagine that the industry will come together to have a unique platform? So the reason I want, Mr. Kandiappan, for you to address it is you have been, talking about that. And Carl, your perspective on the open architecture, right? How can safety be brought into this platform, either in the form of analytics to save lives at the end of the day? Mr. Kandiappan, if you would like to go first.
Thank you. Ramashankar is my good friend as well. We work closely in the ACMA to see how we can jointly, drive this movement. Of course, he has a passion to drive this. And see, the good thing that is happening in India is the government is quite serious.
Yeah.
You all of us know that they have also now created an authority to address the road safety at a national level. Very few days ago, from our side, one of our vision, if WAPCO or ZF, our vision is to achieve zero road accidents, and from making the vehicle safer. So through the technology, various technologies that we have, we're doing, of course, partnering with all the Indian CV OEMs in this direction. And of course, most of the safety technologies are coming through the regulatory route. And of course, we are bringing all those technologies to Indian market at a price point the market can accept, whether it is ABS. Of course, we played a very key role in bringing ABS to this country. We were the only company which had the test track for certifying ABS, even for the government requirement we provided till the NATRIP came. So of course, it's a vision. WAPCO vision is to saving lives and protecting the environment. ZF also has a zero accident vision. So we are willing to, of course, ZF WAPCO is very keen to work with Ramashankar and the entire ecosystem in this country to work towards that objective.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kandiappan. Carl, your thoughts on this?
Well, if you see, Mr. Kandiappan mentioned that the Indian government is doing a lot in terms of doing regulations for active passive safety of passengers, of drivers, so of all participants in the traffic. And these regulations describe special features that have to be in every commercial vehicle. And I think the solutions that are currently in the heads of all the participants, be it OEM, be it suppliers, is standalone solutions for the vehicle to make this regulation happen, be it an ESP solution, be it an AEBS, an advanced braking system, emergency braking system, be it a lane departure warning system. You can name all these fancy features. My personal belief is if we want to make the best happen for the complete infrastructure and the ecosystem, then we have to integrate this really into one solution, which is integrated in the vehicle. This is only possible with connectivity, and this comes back to the open architecture. Then we have to have a basis where all these single-sided solutions can be plugged in and work integrated in the complete vehicle architecture. And this comes to your first question, is only possible by really working together, OEM and the suppliers, on making this in a standardized way so that we then can implement this all.
Absolutely, very valid points. Ramashankar, I hope that answers your question. I know you are doing a lot of work on the aftermarket side of things, as Mr. Kanyappan mentioned. And I think the classic example that you have been able to achieve so far is the Tech Alliance or the Tech Doc, right? At least we have gotten a few players, on a common platform. Hopefully, we'll be able to do that on the OE side of things as well, with a little bit of government support and help. So thank you very much for asking that question. The next question I have is again from a very good friend, Nitin Shrotri, with whom I've worked for many years. This is a question to you, Arun, and maybe Mr. Sachdeva as well. It's a very simple and a straightforward question, right? He asks, how about the risk from aggressive competition from railways to the truck industry, right? Because today, if you look at the railway ministry, they are also investing a significant amount of money and time in developing the infrastructure for railways across India. So from delivery perspective, as an end user, and also from an OEM's perspective, Mr. Sachdeva, how do you see the competition from railways going forward? Who would like to go first?
From delivery's perspective, I at least can say that we are really very excited about what's going on in railways. We don't see it as a threat. Right. In fact, we are hoping that once the north to west corridor opens up, there are talks of roll-on, roll-off being enabled on that corridor. Right. It's now suddenly possible to use older trucks, put them on the train, move them till Bombay, and then they drive from there to Bangalore. So it is a great opportunity, I think. So we don't certainly see it as competition. And the second thing is, at least from delivery's perspective, we see a lot of demand moving to tier 2, tier 3 towns. So for at least a while, I think the railways are going to keep playing catch up. There will always be a demand for trucks to keep moving.
Right. Mr. Sachdeva, your thoughts, especially on the roll-on, roll-off thing, which...
I think I see that's a great opportunity. The last mile connectivity will continue to be a problem, but despite that, we are happy that if they improve the efficiency, which we are actually last 30 years in the industry, and I'm always looking at the efficiency and always hoping that next 5 years will be better for the Indian Railway. But today, I think there's a hope that if the government improves that thing, but despite last mile connectivity, new vehicle transportation across the country for our distribution, definitely they can be of great support to us, where the vehicle get tampered with, it get damaged when it's traveling on the road. Instead, if it goes on the railway road, definitely it can be helpful. And I see it's a very healthy competition will be there between the railway and us, and we'll always win the last mile connectivity. That's how it is.
I completely agree with you. I think last mile connectivity is not something that can be serviced by the railways in any case. But I do like the fact that you and Arun both mentioned that in certain areas, railways still will play catch up. But in certain areas, I think working together will actually improve overall system efficiency as well. So one last question from my side in the interest of time. I think this is a question to maybe Philip and Carl. One from a supplier side of things and one from the OEM side of things. One of the key areas that in India we have seen over the past 12 to 14 months is the involvement or the integration of the dealer ecosystem, right? So today we have a lot more dealer principals and dealer community that is more more open to integrating technology solutions, both from the OE side of things and most importantly on the service and aftermarket side of things, right? So I want to hear your perspective, especially a global perspective, on how Europe has taken this lead in terms of integrating the dealer after-sales service maintenance side of things into the entire connected vehicle ecosystem. And what are, let's say, the top 2 or 3 best practices that we can adopt in India? What are your thoughts there?
So, well, one of the reasons why I'm passionate about this topic is because I think that the solution that we can bring are equally good for the society as for our customers and the customers and their customers. Because when we're talking about efficiency and when you're talking about safety, it also plays directly with the benefits, let's say, of all of the players in the ecosystem. So what is important is to bring value for each of those players. So yes, it's true that in the relationship between the OEM and the tier one providers like us, we need to find, the technological collaboration strongly rooted into our processes. And when we're talking with the fleet operators, we need to bring them fuel saving and accident reduction. Somehow, when we're working with the dealers and with the workshop, we need to enable their own business model of keeping their customers happy, to make sure that they have zero downtime, to make sure that it's well interfaced with their CRM systems. And I think this is what the digitalization and the open architecture provide as opportunities, is that through all of those partnerships, there's always a value for somebody in the chain. So when I'm looking into the difference between Europe and India in terms of remote maintenance and dealer management, the biggest difference is in the opportunity to leapfrog, I believe, in India. There's much more legacy. There's much more like differences in a mature market such as Europe between the front runners fully integrated and the laggers, which know how to do it because they're so well integrated in their technological know-how. The speed of regulation and of changes happening in India have different dynamics. If you're thinking of BS6 introduction, one of the biggest challenge is that the overall network of technicians may not have the right technological training and knowledge about all of the new technologies on the vehicle to be as fast to repair the vehicle as needed. And this is where somehow you can provide new type of value proposition through connectivity and digitalization by offering that remote sharing of that technological know-how. So you can, for example, leverage much more an existing network of point of contacts, but aiding them, supporting them somehow through remote access to the diagnostics information or to the remote sharing, let's say, of technological know-how. And I believe this is where somehow it plays even more of a crucial role in a market like India, due to that kind of fast-paced evolution of the technology, which is not necessarily fully understood nationwide by the people on the front line.
Thank you, Philip. Carl, your thoughts on integrating dealer management systems and solutions?
Well, I think it's what Philip said is exactly true, that we will face a lot of challenges, but this can be overcome. I think the trend will go into that direction. However, I see another threat in addition to what Philippe said. This is more than 60% of the vehicles on road are still in technologies of Euro 3 and below. So there are no possibilities to connect anyhow to a connected solution. So that means what the dealers are facing is, in terms of managing these fleets for customers or in consulting them, that they cannot offer anything. And unless this is not solved and these vehicles are diminishing, also the dealers will always have this problem that on the one hand, they have the new vehicles and the new technologies, maybe also with retrofitment solutions to Euro 4, but all the old vehicles cannot be integrated and they will also fall out of the dealer management system. And I think that is the major problem that the dealers will face in making this really happen.
Perfect. Thank you, Carl. So just to summarize, before I hand over back to Rohit, interestingly, I was able to capture one key word from each one of you today, right? So I just want to touch upon that, in my summarizing thoughts. So Philip, you spoke about a collaborative ecosystem. That's absolutely necessary in India. Going forward, the only way we can succeed, is we come together in developing an ecosystem where every player can play a role, right? Mr. Kandiappan, you spoke about fleet profitability. Again, very important. That is something that is very little understood by a lot of the ecosystem players. So understanding how you can translate some of the technology and service offerings into profitability for a fleet operator is going to determine whether that solution is going to become a success or not, right? And again, continuing with that, Mr. Sachdeva, you spoke about demonstration, right? Unless you are able to demonstrate certain benefits, whether it is saving in time, saving in money, saving in fuel, whatever it may be, it is going to become extremely difficult to convince any operator or fleet operator to adopt a certain technology. So creating awareness, improving awareness on technologies, and demonstrating real-time benefits is going to be the critical way going forward. And Carl, you spoke about open architecture, one of my favorite topics, right? So I think we've got a lot to learn from the global benchmarks there, but no reason why we can't leverage some of the competencies and talent we have in India and create a unique open architecture that is applicable to emerging economies like India, and see if we can replicate it in other emerging economies as well. And last but not least, Arun, you spoke about necessity. I think we are now past the stage where telematic solutions were a differentiator and were a good to have or a nice to have solution. Today it is the need of the hour. If we have to improve our delivery solutions, improve profitability, and add value to our customers, we need to make sure we adopt these technologies in the right earnest. So I think we've got a lot to learn, from all your collective thoughts. I'm very, very happy to be a part of this panel discussion. We've learned, quite a few new things, and we know what we need to do, at least for the Indian context, in improving delivery of technologies, products, and solutions and services. So with that, Rohit, back to you for closing the session.
Thanks, Kaushik. I want to first thank everyone, for joining us for today's live session on connected CVs. I hope you enjoyed this session and found it useful. Firstly, I would like to thank our speaker group for, taking out time from their busy schedules for this. I really appreciate your support. Secondly, I would like to thank our wonderful audience for their inquisitiveness and their attention. We received almost 40-50 questions. I hope we were able to address quite a few of them. Otherwise, maybe I can convince all of these guys to join us for a second episode, a sequel for this. So, and lastly, I wanted to take this time to especially thank our partner, WAPCO India Limited, for supporting this session. Thank you so much all for joining us once again. And I noticed that, a lot of you shared some queries around electric vehicles. So our upcoming session, our last session for 2020, is on EV design and development on 22nd December 2020 at 12 p.m. So do join us for the same. In the meantime, it's a bye from all of us.
Thank you very much, everyone.